Hey, what's up, Soul Warriors? Welcome to this Saturday night Soul Session with me, Reverend LC. I am super grateful to be here. I got my friend back this week. I just want to let you know real quick, this episode is brought to you in partnership with Breakthrough Hypnotherapy. Pamela Topjian is amazing and has a beautiful gift for the Recovery Soulfood audience. So stick around to the end of this video so that you can know how to take her up on that amazing gift. We're also in partnership with the Sober App 2.0. It's coming out. It's going to be bigger, better, and it's going to cover you in healing. So be ready for that. Y'all stick around to the end to know how to get Karith Foster's book. You Can Be Perfect or You Can Be Happy. And along with Pamela Topjian and Remy Stoat's book as well. So there's a lot at the end. Hang out. But right now in this episode, we have my beautiful friend, the beautiful, amazingly talented, she's an author, she's a speaker, she's a consultant, she's a humorist, and most of all, her greatest passion and her greatest work, in my opinion, thus far, not that all of it hasn't been great, but her take on the diversity and inclusion conversation and her creation, I call it an evolutionary creation of Inversity, is really changing the way the world thinks about each other. Not just about stuff, not just about, trends, but about people. And that's what really we need to get back to. Humanity will only be saved by us being more human. And so I'm grateful to have her. We also have a special guest with us, her partner in life, her husband, the Aussie, Craig Russell, and we're grateful that he's joining us because I think it gives us such a difference of people and upbringings and just different places in the world, into where we can really truly have a conversation, because that's how we change the conversation in order to change humanity and what's happening in our world. It's the conversation and the perception that is absolutely keeping us stuck in the worst case of fear that I've ever seen, just trying to burst wide open. So we're grateful to have the Aussie here. He is one of the funniest guys I know. I've never even met him in person, but his energy is amazing. His family loves him, and he absolutely loves his family. And he's the best girl dad I know. So without further ado, I want you guys to welcome Miss Karith Foster and her husband, Mr. Craig the Aussie Russell. If you guys are ready, then we're ready. So let's go. Hey, you guys, what's going on?
Hey, Lona.
Hey, Luna, how's it going?
Man, I'm really, really grateful to be here with the two of you. And Craig said he wanted to come on. Aussie said he wanted to come on and join in this conversation with us. I was excited because, look, we're all so different and yet just alike. And you guys are raising a family in today's world with two young, now biracial daughters in a world that is doing its best to hang on to the old and yet imploding from the inside with love. And you guys are right in the middle of that, and you've got an amazing concept with Inversity. And so number one, I'm just grateful to have you both here, and number two, I'm just thankful that there are people that are willing to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And I would love to know about, you guys are from the South, I'm from the South. Tell us a bit about how Inversity was born, because I have a great feeling, because I know a lot of your story. I want to know some of the stuff too that really fuels that for you and what you've experienced, even both of you. That question.
Sure. Well, I'll start first, and I'll let him add some of the things that
I'm from the Southern Hemisphere.
he's very
so
southern.
I even go.
He's from, he's southern. He's more southern than us. That's right.
The deep south.
He's the real deal. He's the real deal. He's the real deal.
Okay. That's actually online because I thought I was a sweet Southern belle looking for a Southern gentleman, and he's such a. He wrote back, "Well, I'm from the Southern Hemisphere. Does that count, or is that not enough for you?" And I'm like, that's funny. Like, he does not look like anybody I've ever dated before, but that's funny. Funny enough for me to like talk to him.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
That happened. With regard to the Inversity, it was initially called Stereotype 101, and it was program created also initially to just take to college and universities. For it was a very high profile on-air television and radio position I held with Don Imus, the guy who got in trouble for the nappy-headed hose comment. The comment heard around the world in 2007. And I was brought on to have this national dialogue about race. And then not long after I left, I post with him. It was 2010, and a young man by the name of Tyler took his life by jumping off the George Washington Bridge after he had been outed by his roommate and some fellow classmates who secretly recorded him in an intimate situation. And I just remember it just breaking my heart that anybody would feel that alone. The outskirts of society and feel that for whatever reason it was that they fit in or belonged. Their sexuality, their gender, their ethnicity, socioeconomic status, right? And I'm like, what can I do? And so that was the beginning of Stereotype 101. I'm like, love that comedy, but how is that going to change the world? But I realized it was a tool. It wasn't just going to be comedy, but humor, the tool for getting us in a neutral space to have the uncomfortable conversations and getting to be relaxed enough to be open to new ideas and experience. What is more universal than life and life experiences, and of course finding humor and the good, the bad, the ugly. And so it has now transformed into what is Inversity. And just quickly, Inversity, we all know diversity is a good thing when it's done well. And the idea behind having a diverse environment is you get more people with more experience, more, voices, different sides and ways to analyze something and contribute to something greater than you are. The problem is, we're DEI'd out at this point. And it's because diversity has been done poorly for so long. It's actually divided people further up. And if you look at the root of the word diversity, I mean, divide. So we're shocked that we're not any further along. So Inversity is taking what diversity should be, right? Honoring, acknowledging, respecting all of the things that make us up, who we are, our background, our heritage, but expanding the definition of diversity to include diversity of thought and diversity of ideas. Yeah. It's also about shifting the focus from what separates and divides us to what do we have in common, how can we be truly inclusive of one another, but most importantly and powerfully, how can we be introspective, meaning understanding your value, your worth, your connection to humanity. You can see those things in yourself. That's when you can see them in someone else.
Yes.
So it has to start from the inside out in Inversity.
Exactly. And the only person that you can truly change, I mean, you can be in a group of people and you could wish that somebody was different, right? And you can want that, but the only person that you can truly is yourself. Yes. And that it takes a changing of perspective, right? And it's being able to put a different able to move to a different perspective, to see things in a different light, so that now the issue you were having with a person is now something of positive, and that share actually gaining a different experience from somebody that was probably annoying you previously. So
absolutely,
it's just a change of perspective, and a change has to be internal first. You have to change your space, you have to change your position, and be willing to change your position and be open. And then by opening yourself and being willing to change other people around, then You know, whether it's just you changing your spot and stuff, or whether truly everyone
It's the
else.
ripple effect.
It's the ripple effect.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, for so long, it seems like we're stuck on that. If I change the outside of me, then I'll change the inside of me. And what we're just finding out through, the depths of despair is that that's not true at all. And we are at the end of the rope of being able to use that coping mechanism, because there's never going to be enough money. Those of us in addiction know there's never going to be enough drugs. There's never going to be enough of the excess that it can't lead to destruction. And there's just never going to be enough to make that happiness real. So you're right. And all of this just intermingles with each other. And the perfect root to it all is that it all begins with us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It all begins with us.
But that's a really for people to grasp, because right now in a culture where it is a game. Let me blame so and so for the life that I have. Let me blame my parents. Let me blame society. Let me blame that person over there, the guy in third grade who didn't let me sit at the lunch table, and this is why I ended up in this.
I lived that
it's
whole
so much
thing.
easier to do that, right? It's so much easier than to accept responsibility.
Yeah.
For what seems like, well, I didn't have any control over it. No, you may not have outside events or what other people do, but you do have control over how you react.
Right. And that's, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
And the way the American philosophy is, especially American, to always be looking for a quick fix, a pill or a quick solution. Can I take a pill that will get me to where I need to be? And that you don't. What it needs is to look at yourself. I mean, even diabetes and some of these dietary things, and that if you pick your own diet and start changing that, you don't need all the pills and and then all of the side effects that come with that stuff. And that
seems like you're treating the side effects.
Yeah. So we need to start getting back to looking at us, and everything starts I, which is Inversity starts with I. So,
Yeah, you're right. And the thing is a lot of what we see too, and this is my experience, and I'm so grateful to have come to that place where I could change the narrative of what taking responsibility means. Because when you're living in that life of addiction, you're doing your best to medicate trauma, because there's not a quick fix. And the only quick route to temporary happiness becomes like drugs and excessive alcohol. For people that have started their lives in trauma, they're still not even realizing, because addiction makes that cycle just reiterates that you have no control, you have no control, you have no control. And it reiterates that thing that we put all our energy into that. And so you have to start the process of wanting to break out of this cycle. That you start to really realize and change your perspective of what it means to take responsibility. I'm not taking responsibility for what the abuser did. I'm taking responsibility for how much power I give it today. Because it ain't helping me stay out of the street and not hurt and harm myself. Even being authentic.
Right.
And that's.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was just gonna say it's daunting when you're like, okay, I have to be responsible for everything now, but it's just like the word discipline, right? People hear the word being disciplined, right? That slap on the wrist from the piano teacher on the knuckles, by the ruler. Discipline being sent to the discipline is actually when you can have that in your healthy way. It's structure. Same way. Taking responsibility, not like now the weight of the world is on your shoulders. It's actually empowerment.
Yes.
You see it from that perspective versus, oh my God, I have to carry all this.
Right.
It's empowerment, being responsible, being able to say, you know what, I have a choice as to how I'm going to show up in this situation.
Not only freedom. Yes.
Or this incident, or this action, or this law, or this. That's what taking responsibility is. That's personal responsibility angle that people shy away from, because it's for so long it's been a negative.
Yes.
And it's actually really positive.
And the other thing is that and especially if I'm homeschooling our children, and sometimes they look at the problem and they just see such a massive, to go from here to there is such a massive thing.
Yeah.
It's an undertaking to, how make it to the top of the mountain.
Yes.
Right? But if we just focus on taking responsibility for one thing in our life today, I'm
Yeah.
going to take one step forward today, right?
Yes.
And then I'm going to take another step tomorrow, right? Just
Yes.
on something small that you change today, right? Because the way we do one thing seems to be the way we do everything. So if we just change one thing in our life to how we want it to be, it has the knock-on effect of changing everything in our life.
And to piggyback on that,
Absolutely.
making sure that the idea that perfectionism isn't part of it.
Yeah.
Because it's when we get around that it has to be perfect or I'm a failure, then yeah, I do fail. That's when you get into paralysis, and that's when you don't even want to put yourself forward anymore because you're dead to be right or good enough or perfect, right? And we know perfect is it's the bad word.
Yeah. It's the lie.
Thing with any journey, if you just keep taking the next step, it doesn't matter if it's in the right place. It doesn't matter if it's you're headed to the target that you're heading to. Sometimes the journey takes us in places that we need to go, to things we need to learn, so that we'll be prepared for something else later on.
We're talking about that before we go. Like, can you if you share?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I have been going through, a lot of health issues because I've been, like shouldering a lot of responsibility that is not truly my own. And so I got to this place where I've gotten sick in my body. And I was really embarrassed when the doctor told me it was an ulcer. I was hoping it was anything else. Now, how wild is that? Like I'm just like, don't tell me it's an ulcer because there's only one way you get ulcers. And I work on my stuff. Don't talk to me about this. Like this is my jam. I work on my stuff. So I can't have an ulcer. It's got to be something else, But realizing that the way I was taking responsibility for things in my environment just were not mine to take. But it just goes to show that here I am trying to be the perfect spiritualist, and it doesn't exist because I have an ulcer and I work on myself every day. It's like a constant journey and a learning process. And then, I think we talked about this little other embarrassing story I went through a couple of weeks ago, and I really can't wait to hear your take on this. But I was going through this sickness, shouldering a lot of other people's responsibilities and stress that I didn't need to carry, and I was tired, physically in pain, and a conversation came into my reality that had a lot of trans hate involved in it. And it had a lot of intermixed with that. It had a lot of real feelings that you could blatantly hear were born out of fear. They were regurgitations of things that you hear in media, that you hear, on the pick a side consciousness where we are. And so in anger of this, because I'm physically ill, I'm emotionally ill, I'm spiritually damaged at this point feeling, I react to this in a way in where I spend money to have a shirt made, and I'm gonna read it. And I haven't even taken it out of the package. I just want everybody to see this because I won't. Because this shirt is going to represent an amazing moment of healing in my life, and I want to preserve it for a long time and remember this. But I had the shirt made, of course, in trans colors because I gotta, it blew my wig back. I gotta be all in. And it says, trans people do not need your small-minded approval to live their lives. And on the back, it continued and said, be honest. It's not about your kids' safety. It's about your inability to have an intelligent conversation. Now, this shirt was not, it took 2 weeks for this shirt to get made. And I really started taking that apart while it was working its way through my body.
Yeah.
I started realizing that, number one, this was a Latin young man who was probably first generation born in the USA. There were so many ways that we were alike and our stories were alike that as soon as I stopped playing over the conversation of the shirt in my head and ripping him apart and being just like him, just consider that I'm on the right side. I step into those same shoes. It took me about a week to run this through myself and then realize that that was never going to work. Like, if I saw this guy, this was never going to work. I thought anything we push down someone's throat, if you even picture that action, you get an immediate defense stance to happen even physically. So how we think that it's going to happen that same way if we keep pushing things on people and we become saying, I want to be seen, see me, versus really, because we're not seeing them. We're seeing the identity and the external.
Right.
We see that. We're not seeing each other.
No, you're not seeing the person.
No, not at all. Until you have that moment of perspective shift. Because the way that first hit me, it hurt.
Of course.
And people's feelings are real. You feel this way. And it's not that I or any of us will make light of those feelings, or that you have a reason to feel hurt. But having a reason and living and carrying it as your flag is your destruction, and your destruction only. Because we're never going to be able to force feed someone something and expect them to receive it. We only receive things. We look at the divine feminine and masculine, and the feminine is the receiver, and we all have that feminine energy. Yeah. And when we get to a place where we can receive one another, as our stories are so much alike. And by the end of those 2 weeks, I was having a different conversation with him in my head about what he's seeing on TV, and seeing a transgender person on TV. It was probably offered the same hope that when you first saw a brown person on TV. It gave you this new perspective to know that you're human and you're represented, and you can do and be, anything that you want to be. And so it's not that I don't think necessarily that all the words are wrong. The energy is so wrong.
That's the nail on the head.
And it's the energy and the intention behind anything and everything that we do that truly makes what the energy that goes out of us and combines with the collective, that's what it tells. And our reality gives that back to us in a lot of ways. Mirrors. Our relationships mirror.
And we are energy. I love that you brought that up. We've been having conversations around this a lot. Energy, frequency, the fact that, there really is no even gender for these things. When we leave our bodies, our physical bodies, we're not like a boy or a girl. It's, there are identifiers for here, and we get caught up with labels.
Yeah.
I feel often that things are kind of being pushed, kind of shoved down.
Absolutely.
Pushed in your face. And like you said, that's not how you win people over.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
We were just watching I was just watching something I was sharing with Karith last night. The CIA is just documents that say that there is actually nothing that does not exist. It's only energy.
Yeah.
It's energy that it's at different frequencies.
Yes.
So there is actually no matter. But it's interesting that the T-shirt did take you 2 weeks to get printed, right? Because the universe doesn't always give you what you want, but it's what you need.
Absolutely.
And you needed 2 weeks.
Yeah.
to think about it. And it said, here you go. You got
It
2
did.
weeks before you get it.
And I have not seen that guy one more time, and I saw him every single day. It's a lot of the same workers that ride these same boats there and back every day. I have not seen him once since that time.
Yeah.
And the thing I think that kind of hurt me is I always thought the kid was cool. Like, I just thought he was a funny guy, and his brother is the one that was having the debate with him, and his brother's real quiet, but his brother's the one that I know and that knows me and that kind of saw me briefly pre-transition, because I've been over there since before I started transitioning.
Mhm.
So there's still.
How long ago?
I started. I just did 4 years in April.
Okay.
April was my 4th year. So I've been working over there for like 7 years.
Gotcha.
So there's still this. There's still people that know me,
Right.
and also this gender. And I gave that so much energy, and not that there is not. I give grace where there's a pure intention.
Right.
I
Right.
don't stand for I don't stand for cattiness or anything like that. And I don't there's a diplomatic way to ask people. We can agree to disagree about beliefs, but I don't get to disrespect you, and you don't get to disrespect me.
Exactly.
That's where that goes. And I think that's probably where we need to get in the world, is like, we can all cohabitate. You can learn to see new things. We're all new to each other.
Yeah.
But, this has been going on for so long. Like, even when we saw like the frustration in the civil rights movement, and where there was that passive, the coming from love, and then there was the militant, and it seems like people just keep hanging on to the same things, where they're saying, oh, you can't force us to do that.
Yeah, it's the same narrative.
Yeah, it's the same thing, and I think that it's coming to an end. And I think we have so many things firing off at once. We're still in a civil rights battle. We are still in a civil rights battle. We know it is
more than ever.
I'm afraid to say exactly. It just went underground. The force feed that this is what we're going to do. People just went underground with it. It became more passive aggressive, and then it got even worse, because then we created ways to keep a population of people bound. Because we didn't agree with the narrative, and we're still in that space. It's just a different time, and the outfits are different. We're still in that space, and say.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I think we are in that space in some respects, but I also think we're further than we ever were.
You think so? Well, I love the way that
the reason I think so is because I think that the majority are just silent. Get to hear from people who are like, I don't care who people marry. If it makes you happy, that's your business. It's not mine. It's the extremists, right? On always on whatever side of the thing that make the most noise.
Yes.
I do believe that we're along, because
I guess you're right.
To different places frown still upon interracial. Like, we go places like, really populous, highly, multi-diverse populous places, and we see people there, like all sorts of family. Like, when we go to Orlando, we go to amusement parks, or we go to like functions here in Texas where it's family events, and we see mixed families, and we see families with 2 dads and 2 moms, and nobody's like giving anybody like,
no.
People are just living their lives.
Yes.
And I think that it's the majority of the people, but again, we have the media to thank for making everything a shitstorm.
Yeah, I think that in real life, people have moved on. People are looking at people for people. Right? Are you a good person? Right? But we have the media that keeps pushing this narrative of division. You need to hate this person. You need to dislike that person.
This movement's coming to take over your world, your child.
The Black Lives Matter people, and white supremacist of that, and these people are coming, and all of this stuff, and it's overplayed to the and the sad part is that everybody watches that and everyone believes it as being true.
Yes.
And that's the real problem. I mean, the quickest, I used to joke with Karith, the quickest way to cure COVID is to turn off the news.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
the quickest for any of this stuff is to turn off the news, walk outside, across the street to your neighbor and start talking to your neighbor. You know, that's the quickest way to bring any of this to a halt.
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that helps keep it being fueled, and I guess because I live in such a southern state, that our state is less southern and more what they would call like the Bible Belt. So, and I do remember, I went out to Texas in the 90s, and that's where for the first time I felt like a human being and not some type of sideshow. And so, like in the places that I live, but you're right. And there again, there's that moment where you can make a choice about perspective, and take into effect everything that's kind of where you are in your life, your body, your mind, where you are. And we hate to feel uncomfortable.
Oh,
and I think while the media is
we're not built
feeding
for that. We're not designed for discomfort.
No, exactly. So when the media is feeding us this and it feels good over here, because to see two men, in a family situation is uncomfortable for me. So if there's a narrative for it, then I don't have to feel uncomfortable. I can be angry at it.
Yeah.
As long as I'm angry, I'm not changing. I'm not taking responsibility.
And you get to feel virtuous as well.
Absolutely.
Virtuous. And which comes along with the virtue signaling, which is I can't just feel uncomfortable. I have to go online and talk about it.
Oh yeah.
I have to, have a loud conversation so they can hear me.
Right.
That's
Yeah, and that's what that is. And I guess that's where I kind of see that passive part. That's where that came from, to me.
But that's not taking responsibility for your own point of view. That's literally saying, well, I don't want to have to be involved. Let me put it in some other bucket away from you.
Yes.
Not having to, be, once again, everything starts with I. What is the thing that I think about this? What I'm being told by some talking head on a news program, but what do I really think about these things?
Yeah. Because this is basically what I've been talking to my wife about, this whole past week, ever since I found out about the ulcer. I came to that place where I understood her pain because I once had her position in our family business. So everything that she's so energetically wound up with and so angry with are the same things that I already understand. But it's bumping up against trauma that she has in her life, and we've been together for a long time, so she has trauma with this other human being. And it's trying to be in a place of compassion where I can hold this space for you while trying to say, but you have a choice. Like, you get to have a choice. Like, and it feels, so defensive. It's hard for me not to say, like I try to hold the space, but it's so hard for me not to say.
But you know what you have to do in this instance? Like, truly, I've had to do the same thing, is you have to pray for that person, like pray for that clarity to happen, for that calmness to come, so that it works itself out. Because obviously, as we know, we can't change anyone. All we can do is, but we let it go. And you have to remember, again, if we're talking about energy, and it feeds into things, the energy we're giving into it feeds into that as well. So when we let that go, when we release that energy, like, that's setting the stage also for the movement to happen.
Absolutely.
It's easier said than done if we're like, type A personalities. Like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make it work.
Yeah, and here's the 1500th time I'm going to tell you how this can be fixed. So just fix it, please fix it. Yeah, it has taught me a lot about myself. This, and a lot of people know the story. My wife and I are just getting to know each other again. Since 2020, January of 2020, and she started waking up. So we just downsized. We're empty nesters. We bought a travel trailer so we could get out if we needed to go. And we downsized, and we're putting ourselves in this space where it's like, okay, we can't escape from each other anymore. We used to have a 3-bedroom townhouse, so I'd be upstairs, she'd be downstairs, and we'd never see each other. This went on for like 7 years, and now it's like, okay, here we're gonna make a flood in the apartment and give you no choice but to figure something out. And this made sense to both of us, so we're boot camping in here.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing opportunity to learn so much about your own self and, in your own reactions. And you're right, it's the answer to what we're going through on the planet as a consciousness, as a humanity, as a whole. Is, we don't have to be like everybody else. In fact, that's the beauty of this entire creation, is that we're not. I mean, I think that New Orleans, and where I'm from in the South, is the most soulful place to be. Everything's a gumbo in the South, and we're a gumbo of creation. And I guess am glad through hard questions and learning and self-work that I can be in a place where I sit here, in this energy right now. Because I used to just be pissed off.
Oh yeah.
That I wasn't like everybody else.
Right. And that'll eat you up.
Oh, it does.
Eat you up. You know that. I mean,
oh yeah.
You know that.
Absolutely.
And even knowing that doesn't change it sometimes, because knowing it just makes you aware, and you still do.
You still make it.
Sometimes that's worse.
It's the first step.
It is.
And then making the decision, the choice to not do that anymore. To say, this is serving me. This is not helping me. This is hurting. And I deserve better. I deserve more. I'm worthy and valuable. And I don't need to have anxiety, this stress, this tension in my life, because it is keeping me from my literally divine purpose.
Yes.
And it's one of those things. You just take one step. No matter which step it is, no matter which direction you go in, and just take a step. Move.
Yes. I like that. Just move.
Yeah.
Just move somewhere. And do it. Be willing to do it over and over and over again. Do that same process every time that thought process or that nervous system begins to run that program. Be there to try to catch it. And when you miss one, don't beat yourself up over the one you missed. Celebrate the 3 and the 4 that you caught that day, and the work that you're doing, because that's the discovery. I hate calling it work because it gives you a reaction. Work sounds daunting, but it's a discovery of who you really are. Because we're not things we've been taught. I mean, starting when our kids are little and we were little. What are you going to be when you grow up? Pick the right thing. Don't say anything crazy. And it wasn't, I want to be an amazing human being with the most amazing connections and family around. We know that. So this leads me to a question I'm extremely interested in. What are you all doing with your young ladies, your kids in the world right now, and how are you raising them to help create a new generation?
You go. You're kind of at the helm of it. I mean,
I guess I'm at the pointy end of the spear of this and that. So when you were just talking is a lesson that I taught our kids, and I've done it a couple of times, and I have both of them hold a Trader Joe. We have the Trader Joe's shopping bags.
Yeah.
Little paper bag, right?
Yeah.
I have one of my daughters hold the bag open, and the other daughter the bag closed, right? And I have these little wooden blocks that I've made. And I start throwing wooden blocks at my daughters. Right? Right?
Terrible. They're tiny.
No, they're
They're
not.
not like chunking.
I'm not
bricks that are
pelting them
kids.
and I'm
Clarification.
I'm not pelting them with these wooden blocks, but
Like Jenga-sized blocks.
Just little Jenga-sized blocks, and I'm like lobbing them at them. I'm saying these are ideas, right? These one of these ideas might be worth $100 million. One of these ideas might be worth $100. One might be, and so we, when I throw maybe 20 of these blocks out, right? And the one that's got the closed bag, I go, how many blocks did you catch? Well, none, right? How many blocks on the bag is on? Well, I've got maybe 10, right?
Nice.
So the idea is about having an open mind, right? When you is open
to the possibilities,
and opportunities. When things come along, they can land. They have a landing place. If it's closed, it doesn't matter. You could have the whatever it is, the $1.2 billion jackpot land on top of your head, and it slides right off. Some opportunity that some friend of yours may say, "Hey, I got a business up. You want to partner up with this thing?" No, my mind is closed.
Yeah.
And you missed out, right?
Yeah.
So we're about working on opening their minds up and more. So we concentrate basically on the reading and mathematics, and then we work on how to maximize opportunities.
Awesome.
Right, and how opportunities can be turned into business ideas. Even to the point where our kids woke up one morning and they were like, "Well, I want to get these dolls, these plush animals, some kind of animal thing that they wanted, right?" And I said, "Well, how much does that cost?" And they go, "Be $50." And that I go, "Well, you got to make $50. And it's not going to happen for you. It's not going to fall out of the sky, and you're going to have this thing. So you got to sit down and make $50. Well, we could sell lemonade. We need to sell $50. I go, you need to sell more than $50 of lemonade because you got to go buy some cups. You got to buy some lemonade thing and set it up." So they got to it. They made a sign. We had to go to the chiropractor that morning. We went and bought lemonade, organic lemonade.
They're like, "Oh, we'll add popsicles to the menu." Just sign with the pictures of like the lemon, watermelon, and like a blueberry, and they had to pay rent to my mom because she's on not a high traffic corner, but a corner where there's going by. So I'm like, "You're gonna have to pay Gaga rent." Not that she would really take it, but they factored that in, right?
Yeah.
Gaga to be able to park on their corner.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
that's amazing.
We made this quick business plan. They had to make more than $50 because they had to pay back the lemonade, they had to pay the rent, they had to pay for the cups and stuff. And they went out there and they made $50. They made $50 profit and bought animals. But the sad part was, as soon as they made $50, they came in.
In Texas.
They didn't like, "Oh yeah, well, we made $50. We'll make this stay a little longer. We can make $70 or $80. We got our 50. We're good."
That's great. That's great.
The start. And the idea is to always make a plan.
Yeah.
And
that's
write it down. Have a vision board. All those things. That's not just bogus. Like.
Yeah. But when you start on any journey, it doesn't matter what you're doing or whatever, you have to know where you're starting from, and you have to know the destination.
Yeah.
And once you know the starting point and the destination, now you can make a plan there. And you have to make a plan, because if you don't know where you're starting and you don't know where you're finishing.
But that doesn't have to be the final destination.
Right.
And that's
your destination move, right?
Like, for sure.
Where do you want to go from here? What's your first step?
But
just open it up. Like you're saying, just opening it up with having that vision of the end opens your mind to even see that possibility. Yeah. And the closer you get to that possibility, then it seems like it expands even more. And and the tendency to try to get stuck on the how,
That's
like
exactly
you're,
right. You don't even
that's
have
what
to
you're,
know, really.
yeah, your girls are learning that right now, in that let's make a plan, and we can make a plan, but we don't have to be so attached to the how, because what would the learning, I can imagine already that the learning process to that would be, if they hadn't been successful with lemonade, then there would have been an opportunity for another lesson there, that hey, sometimes things don't go as we originally planned, but we can pivot and make a new plan, kind of like mom did, everybody did when COVID hit. I mean, there's so many lessons that are life lessons involved in those. And we see the opposite in our son, because when he was your daughter's ages, they're between 6 and 11, or 8 and 11. What, you had said something like that there.
9.
Okay. So they're like, in that very prime stage of learning how to work things out. Our son was, we started trying to get clean and sober and in recovery for the first time. So that was like real healing, and not just trying to just not use, have the same old shit running and just don't use. This was something different. So there was a lot coming up and out, and here he was. And so we were just surviving day by day, because, we were in recovery with, records now, with police records. We were considered a gay couple, like there was just things, and he started absorbing that. And it was amazing for me to be able to tell him, listen, you don't have to live under mine and your mom's narrative. That's not your fight. Like, you are, this is who you are, and you got to embrace that. And the things that you watched us work through, because we never just let that tell us and define us of who we're going to be. It may have made the journey a little bit harder,
Sure,
but it made it worth it, because we got up and went every day. But he didn't see us really make a plan and plan out the how. And so now I see him doing his money like that, where he's not in active addiction. He lives from day to day with his money. And I see him like struggling, and it's like, how do you, but you never stop being a parent, like you're always growing in your life, and it does still move out to theirs.
But there's also, we talk about this too, as when we get a little spiritual, like we made a pact. Like we believe that we made a pact with each other, arch pact with us. Like our souls had an agreement to come in to be with us.
Yep.
We agreed to be with each other. Like, so it's, while it's very easy to feel like, oh, I just, I screwed up, right? I did the wrong thing, have this guilt and this. No, there was a soul agreement. That this is the life that we're going to do together. And we chose this because we were supposed to get something else.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that there's no actual wrong thing. I forget which book it was I was reading, but one of these super successful people would ask his children every day, how did you fail today? Because if you fail, you actually learn. That's when you really learn. Because that's the quick fact. Something I did something and failed at. You get the instantaneous feedback that was the indirect action. Now you back and do a different action, right? But when you succeed, you don't know if you fully succeed. I mean, could I have been more successful when I made that move? Right? But I succeeded. So you just keep going with that same action, whether it's the most successful or most efficient action that you can, you keep doing it until you fail. And then
we're setting up not to fail now. I mean, there's a book that I got to contribute to called The Coddling of the Amazing, and it's, parents want to feel like they're doing such a good job at parenting because their kids aren't unhappy, their kids are successful, but they forget that it's that the challenges, it's that going through something that builds character, builds strength, it builds fortitude, it builds willpower, and when you take it, you're robbing them.
You're robbing that.
Absolutely.
And a diamond is made as carbon made under pressure.
Absolutely. And that's why my wife and I have had such a learning experience through this time, this recent, catastrophe in his life. We've just had the boundary of, this is how we're going to help him learn. Like, if we contribute to this, as hard as it is to be a parent and watch your child go through this, knowing that you're going to rob, something else from him. It takes, to me, it just takes more love to go through the uncomfortableness of watching him gain his legs. And I'd rather him do it at 22 than 42, because it's heck of a lot harder then. So, it's been an amazing experience for us to have each other to lean on and not be fighting one another. And, one of us giving it to him, the other not agree, and we're on the same page. It's an amazing situation. And, I know you can just hope that he learns a little bit, before rock bottom, but,
Right.
That's what you hope. And if not,
but sometimes you have to hit the wrong, and
yep,
everybody's rock bottom is different.
it sure is.
Get to a point where, like, I'm sick of this and I want something different, right? Some people go a long time to a point where they go, I want something different, Some can go an inch and they go, yeah, I don't really like this. Moving on to something.
I used to pray I could be that second example. I was always the first. Always the first. But you work on becoming that second, and this is how you work on becoming that other example, is when your intuition feels it, or when you know it, just do it. Every one of us probably has an invention we've seen on TV that we probably came up with at one time and just didn't do anything with it. But bitch, every time it comes on TV, that's my shit right there. Like, that's the story of your life. That's your narrative. Everything's stolen from me. There's just ways that we can go through life, and it can be kind of exciting. And even the roughest times, I think, are just unveiling more. I mean, we've talked about, onions, being onions, and peeling back to, I think we probably agree that we're on some kind of, trip from divinity and back to divinity. I don't know if it's I wonder sometimes. I mean, I think we won't ever know the details to everything. We can only know what we feel and move forward in that way. But I'm with you on the soul contracts. I knew when I saw my wife in a bar that she did not look like my normal, package, but there was something different about her. Like, I knew this person. Like, I had known them for a long time. And it was, from then on. So 18 years of just knowing in every moment, even the worst.
Yeah.
This is still my person.
This is my person. I was just going to say that. Yep.
This is my person.
We say that a lot.
Yep. And it's something, isn't it? Isn't the beauty of realizing that you have a love and a relationship like that so truly like a gift when you really sit and think about it?
And that doesn't mean that it's perfect all the time. It's rainbows and sunshines and, rainbows, sunshines, kisses, and lovemaking. And it's hard. It's hard.
It is.
Like, marriage and relationships are hard.
Yes.
But there's a reward for sticking with it, for being healthy, working on yourself.
Yes.
Because you can't work on anybody else.
Yes.
And there's a reward for having an open mind and an open perspective to being able to see what the other person's going through at that point. I need to give them some space, or they need some extra care because of going through.
And there's just such a gift in knowing that no matter what, that this is my partner, like, this is the person that has my back and will pick me up, when I'm face down on the floor, and vice versa. And, this is the person that if we fail, we failed and we learn together, and there is just such a gift in that. And I have really been, since the ulcer, been really making sure that I spend time in the morning just really honoring that, for my wife to get up every Saturday morning and take our weekly laundry to the laundromat. She hasn't had to do for years, she hasn't had to do that, and she gets up and takes it every Saturday morning. She doesn't let me go with her. She says, this is what I like to do for us. Like lets me just do nothing. Like that ain't even fair, and yet it's so good. Like and we give that back and forth to each other, and it's an amazing place to be. Yeah, it actually is. I wish it for everyone. I wish it for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see happening? Like, what is Inversity doing? Because I mean, I think it should be everywhere all the time, and it looks like it's that you're there. So tell us.
Well, the good news is that it's taking off. It's becoming more and more popular. I started consulting with some pretty incredible organizations, companies that have clients from major sports teams to banks to Fortune 100 corporations. So getting my team and the message of Inversity out there. Finally, I have a new wonderful administrative assistant who is just on top of things, so I can do more programming. The idea is to not just make this a conversation diversity, because it's more than that. It's about, again, mental wellness, mental health, leadership, right? Like all of these elements that D&I or DEI or that too. But it's also about like conscious communication, noble compassion, learning how to show up as an ally, and read an ally is.
Yes.
Not just somebody who, because different perspectives about it. Some people think, oh, that's great, I'm there but maybe not know the full extent of how they could be. Or some people think being an ally means I have to give up who I am to support people who aren't like me, and I have to give up my beliefs. No, it's standing up for your fellow human beings.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to agree, walk out saying kumbaya, holding hands, but it means that you understand that there's a human being who is worthy of being heard, having a voice, affection, energy, time, respect.
Absolutely.
For me, I see Inversity being a word that is found in 100, 200, 300, 100 years time. Instead of people talking about diversity, and that I want to use the word and say we're talking about inversity today. I want that. That's my dream and goal for this whole process is to easily change the narrative, change the dialogue that we have to because we've been doing diversity stuff now for over this 60 years. And I remember it was 10 years ago when I was started this stuff with Karith. And I remember reading an article from in London. Some newspaper in London said, we've now been doing diversity for 50 years. They took over the 50-year mark where they had been focusing on diversity in London. And they were looking at the results of all of it, of millions of dollars being poured into this every year for 50 years. And they go, I don't think we're any further ahead, as far as having the conversation. And that literally, they go, we may be in a worse spot. And they probably right that way, because now everybody has splintered off into these little, I'm gay, I'm straight, I'm blah, blah, I'm that, everybody has become their label.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? I am, and they wear this badge, like a badge.
Yes.
I'm this.
Yep.
I belong to this group.
Yep.
Nobody is their badge. Nobody is just gay. It's just straight. Nobody is just everybody's a person, and individually different, and everybody's experience and story and point of view of how they got here is perfect for their story, for their narrative. Everybody's story. No two stories are going to be the same, but each story is perfect for that person has led them to that point in time. And that now we can understand that these different stories, right, are something to be treasured, and there's something to be gained. When we can share a story, and I can listen to your story, Lorna, and I can share someone else's story, now I'm enriching my life. And
Yes.
I use this phrase when we go to the conferences. I say, if everybody had the same point of view and the same title and the same bag, they're using a picture with one color.
Yeah.
How exciting is that? A picture with one
Absolutely.
color. Imagine if we could start using 10 colors. Imagine if it was 100, imagine if it was 100,000 colors. Every person who come into contact in our lives is another color that we can use to paint the story of our life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Creation shows us how we are to, to live and appreciate just in its landscapes. When we wake up and see landscape, it is made in such unique ways and colors, and no 2 days are exactly alike, even though they seem like they are, until we get to a place to appreciate that. And I couldn't be here without my friend Martin John. Had he never challenged me and asked me that question about, yeah, but what else? I don't feel comfortable introducing you as a trans man. I just want to live in a world where just everybody is just who they are, where you're just a person. And in the initial of me getting kind of angry because I was so identified, looking, and we're always, when we have more than one label, I am, we are looking for something to fit and make us feel comfortable.
Yeah, the life vest, right?
Yeah.
The buoy, the
Yep.
ocean device. You're not in the sea wandering alone by yourself.
Yep.
You want something to hang on to.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it's their identity. And we see them
Absolutely.
clinging on to it for dear life.
Yes.
You're going to rip this away from me, because then what do I have to do?
Exactly. Because then who am I?
To go deeper, you're going to have to explore all the other things that you are.
Yeah. And that's why, I like to work with people in gender transition, actually before, so that we can come to a full understanding of, is this your path? Like let's make sure this is your path.
You are so needed. You are so needed.
Because to think about the trauma that you go through and that you put your body through. I mean, even I've even had a gastric bypass because I've played this little role before. Oh, if I fit in this box, then my life will be perfect. Oh, that didn't work. Now you're even more hopeless. And then you go out in search of something else, and then something else. And these things lead to destruction until you get to the place where you break open and you say, well, who the fuck am I for real?
Yeah.
And I want to know. And I'm on a path to know. And I began to be on that path when I asked to know God.
Yeah.
That's when I began to know
myself.
myself.
That's it.
And it becomes I am.
Absolutely.
I am. I am, and I am with,
So the things that make you uncomfortable, the moral of the story is, allow yourself to have an open mind about that. Open up about that and ask yourself the question of, why is this so uncomfortable for me? What does it bring up in me? What kind of fear? Is this my narrative? Does this belong to me, or does this belong to generations past?
Right.
And what am I building now in my children that I send out in the world? Because all of us are someone's children, and we regurgitate for a good while the energy we've been fed, just like they did. And we have to do better by our children coming up.
Yeah.
We could have like a whole political conversation here, because I think a lot of things need to happen. Many things, about school need to be done different. And
we can have hours.
We don't need to build more identities. Let's start helping people subtract down to the one that they are.
The one that they are.
To the one that they are.
Everybody has their own identity. There's not some box that you're going to tick.
No.
Who you are. And that you are your own individual,
without beautiful, wonderfully and perfectly made.
Yes.
In the image.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. It's there. It tells it. I love you too. And you're right. We could go on for hours, because these are the amazing. See, you know what I call Recovery Soul Food? Recovery Soul Food is like the jazz of the recovery and the addiction and self-improvement best life podcast. That's what I think. We
I
always
love
have
it.
a
I love it.
smooth, soulful conversation. So we are the jazz of the community. If you're a jazz fan, you're into soul healing, then make sure that you come hang with Recovery Soul Food. Karith, people can get your book, which is a great place to start with you, on Amazon. I always type in your name and it comes up. So make sure that you go and get
You can do that. You can my personal website and for signed copy. This is karith.com.
Karith.com.
Fine.
I'm gonna add that too.
I mean, it's you just have to Google Karith. There's not too many.
That's it.
Kariths.
She's out there. No, there's not, and she's out there because you are making some noise, and I love it. You just don't know how much joy it brings me to see pictures of you living this life in a way that is helping humanity as a whole. Like, this isn't no small calling, and we know that. So, you know, I love seeing it, and all the pictures that you. One thing I love about you, Aussie, the most, and it doesn't matter, you know, what's ever going on. You are the proudest man when you are in pictures of your family. Like, I have never met this man. You crack me up so naturally. You're one of the funniest guys I know. But what truly makes me know everything I need to know about you is how safe your family feels with you, how supported. I mean, your wife has a gift beyond, you know, and you're there in the mix of this, and you guys are a team, and you're that level of support, you know, just says that your family feels safe in your care. And that's an energy that makes you one of my favorite human beings. And so I just wanted to make sure you knew that, because you know how much I love you, Karith. You guys are a special power.
I know. And this is rodeo around the world together either. We've deciphered that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This isn't the first time. Not the first time. So make sure that y'all go hit up Karith.com. Make sure you get with Inversity Solutions. I've already sent it out. I've already sent it to a couple different places here. I hope to get you to North Carolina. It might be a selfish thing. I might be just trying to get you over here.
Okay, we'll figure
But
it
I'll do
out.
what I got again. We needed here something terrible. So we're gonna get you back here.
I'm gonna get in all 50 states. That's my goal.
Oh, you will. Oh, you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then internationally.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a given. That's just a given. You're in the journey right now. Like you're in that part where it just gives so much hope. It gives so much hope, and I love seeing it. It makes my heart just.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. We'll have to do this again. I love you guys so much. You guys, I got great guests next weekend as well. Make sure you come and join us. We got recovery surveys and Revolution Recovery Lives. Brett Moore with us. It's a double header, and I got the infamous, the amazing, best-selling author Jamie Brickhouse on next week as well. So join us at 5 p.m. and then again at 8. It's a double header. It's going to be amazing. These two human beings are my favorite. I love you guys. Thank you for being here with me. Thank everybody in the comments. Pamela Topchin, make sure you go to Amazon also and get her book. I didn't come this far. It only come this far. She is another global voice necessary in the world. Make sure you hit her up on Breakthrough Therapy, hypnobreakthrough.com. Take her up on that free gift of hypnotherapy, and make sure you tell her LC sent you. Thanks for everybody who's done that. I appreciate y'all so much. You too. Just keep being amazing. Keep raising beautiful kids and blessing the world. I love y'all so much. I'll see you guys later.
All right.
Bye, everybody.